Hey, tomorrow is my birthday, so in honor of that, I am talking about the top 3 highest grossing movies the weekend that I was born. And the names of those 3 films are Ghost, The Exorcist III, and Flatliners. Well, let's do these. Ghost. This film stars Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. It also has Whoopi Goldberg in it and is kind of amazing. I'm really surprised with how much I enjoyed this film. So the basic premise is this young-ish couple are madly in love, and then one day one of them dies, and it's sad. But the dead person sticks around for a while because that's what ghosts do. They have unfinished business. And this movie is great. It's super cheesy and the story is definitely predictable, but they move along at a nice pace and there's just so much charm. Plus Patrick Swayze is really nice to look at. So you don't mind the predictability and the insane cheese. My biggest complaint about the movie is that Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore aren't the best of actors. In particular, with the emotions around the death scene, it was really bad. It was insane how bad it was. Because one of them was just and the other one was and that's all they did for emotions. I'm just this is a joke, right? This isn't the actual death, because this is terrible. What are you doing? Ugh. But I can mostly forgive the movie for its faults because it's really charming and fun and cute and has a nice satisfying ending. Also, this movie is infamous for this pottery scene that happens, and I was always under the impression that it happened post the death, but it actually happens before the death. And personally, I didn't find it that steamy, but I don't know, it's whatever. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot, and I would honestly definitely recommend it. It is a chick flick, so you do have to put your lenses on for that, but it's whatever. It's a good, fun movie. I liked it a lot. It's good. Next up is The Exorcist III. This movie came out on my birthday, so I am exactly as old as this movie is. And this movie is really interesting. To give a little background first, I own The Exorcist. I've only actually watched it once though, because it terrified me so deeply to my core that I've just never fully been able to recover from its spookiness. I'm not really saying that hyperbolically. This is legit the scariest movie I've ever seen. And I watched it during the daytime with my brother and my mom, and the windows open, and I was still terrified. But then I never saw the sequel, because why? And I've never seen this one before. But this one, apparently the story does skip over the stuff from the second one. It may have still happened, but it doesn't matter. And this movie is interesting because it starts off bad. Everything's just bad. The dialogue is awful. It's trying to be funny. I don't get what's up with that. So many jokes. There's a whole story about a cod in a bathtub that I don't fucking get. The editing is terrible, the cinematography is awful, it's just everything about this movie was just bad. But then, I'm not sure at what time point it was in the movie, I'm just gonna say halfway through. Halfway through, the main character, George C. Scott, he goes to this psych ward to talk to this criminal guy. And he walks into the scene and I'm oh, this shot really cool. There's the cool thing with light and smoke and stuff, and it's nice, this is good. And then as the scene's going on, I'm wait, this whole scene is good. No, it's really good. This is amazing. What is this scene? What? Everything before this was terrible and now it's amazing. What is going on? And then after that, it was actually a pretty good movie. The story was interesting. Killings and murders start to happen. It worked. There's some stuff that was a little cheesy, but it was a completely different movie. And there are some really nice effect shots at the end too, of some skin getting ripped off. And I'm oh, nice. So yeah, this movie is so weird because it was legitimately bad, and then it was amazing, and then it was just fine for the rest of the movie. So yeah, this is weird. I ended up putting it in the liked category, but would I recommend it? No, don't watch this one. Just watch the original Exorcist. It's amazing. It's gonna scare your pants off, because it did for me, and I'd be really surprised if it doesn't for you. It's really scary. Like, it's kind of freaking me out just holding this right now, and that's so weird. I legit haven't watched this movie for like 16 years. Why is this scaring me to touch this? This isn't a bit. I don't know what's happening. All right, moving on. Gonna put it away now. It'll be safe in between Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Fanboys. And lastly is Flatliners. This movie stars Kiefer Sutherland. It also has Kevin Bacon, Julia Roberts, and discount Alec Baldwin. And this movie was, again, interesting. So the premise is a group of med students want to become legally dead for a few minutes in order to experience death so that they can have the answers to life and the universe and everything. But instead what happens is they get haunted by the sins of their past. Now, that's not a bad premise. I in particular really liked the haunted by the sins of the past thing, especially how they did it. It was visually very interesting. What I absolutely despised about this movie, though, was the complete lack of understanding how the human body works. Like, it is ridiculously hard to kill a person, and then it's also difficult to bring a person back from the dead. But let's say you do both of those things flawlessly, great, good job. You're not going to be able to walk around for days at least, but definitely not 5 minutes later. It's just like, no, what? No, no, this is, no. And this is also just like ignoring like all of the brain damage that would happen from not having oxygen in your brain for several minutes. Also just like they do chest compressions. You break ribs when you do chest compressions on someone. You're not just gonna be fine. I also found it hilarious when they were doing chest compressions on Julia Roberts, because they didn't do it where you're supposed to. They did it like underneath her boobs, basically like pressing on her stomach the entire time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I get it that Julia Roberts didn't want anyone to touch her boobs, that's fair. But like, if that's gonna happen, don't show it. Also, just like every time they did anything medical, it was just like, what are you doing? You're so dumb. I say all that though, the movie's actually pretty good. Like, the acting is solid, the cinematography is like gorgeous. Like, it's so good. And just like, there's so many cool colors and they do lots of cool things with smoke. And again, all the stuff with like the sins of the past. It's creepy, it's scary. Kevin Bacon is amazing as always. I love Kevin Bacon. Kiefer Sutherland was great. Oh, Oliver Platt's also in this. I forgot to mention that. He doesn't die though, so he's not important. So yeah, I ended up putting this movie in the liked category. Would I recommend it? I mean, if you think you're able to suspend your disbelief better than I was, then yeah, sure, go for it. But like, yeah, I could not accept the premise, and that was very infuriating. Because again, the rest of the movie is actually pretty good. Alrighty, now for my rankings. First up, we got Ghost sitting at number 58 in the quite like section, pretty close to the top of the quite like section. And then after that is The Exorcist III sitting at number 114 in the liked section. And then bringing up the rear, rightfully so, is Flatliners sitting at number 122. Also in the quite like section. And this is at a total of 171 old movies so far this year. And then just like as a quick aside, did you notice how like all three of the movies that were the highest grossing box office films the weekend I was born all have like a theme of death? Like, it's a literal ghost, it's an exorcism, which is demons, and then like a lot of people die as well. And then also the last one is a bunch of people trying to kill themselves repeatedly. Like, this is a weird coincidence that feels like it's more than a coincidence, and I don't know what it's saying about me. I don't like it. It's kind of spooky. Like, ooh.